Hello everybody, I'm Rusty and this is my YouTube channel, You Fix It Garage. And it's always my goal on this channel to help you save money by doing things or fixing things yourself. So today I'm out here in the shop. I just bought this Tippmann Boss hand stitcher off of Facebook Marketplace. I got it used and it wasn't stitching quite right. So what I do with most things when they're not working, I take it apart and figure out how it works. So that's what I did with this machine, and I thought it would be beneficial maybe to show others how I set the timing on this machine. I'm going to go a lot more in depth than what is on most of the other videos online because the timing on this machine is a critical element of it. There's a lot more that goes into creating a good stitch, like thread selection, needle size, tension on both your bobbin and on the thread coming in. But if the timing is not right, none of that other stuff matters. So the timing has got to be set right first. So I'm going to go over in depth how to time this machine from the top to the bottom. I'm going to cover a couple of issues that I found with my machine that had to do with stitch length and advancing the material through the machine, and show you how I fixed those. And hopefully at the end of this video you'll be able to set your machine up and get it stitching properly. So let me zoom in here on the machine and we're going to get started. Okay, I've spun the machine around here. I took the thread holder off the top just to kind of get it out of the way so you guys could see what was going on. And to start the conversation about this machine and the timing, the first thing we need to do is take this cover off. This is just a plastic cover and it's just held in here with friction. So if you just kind of reach in right there, you can pull it out, no problem, and set that aside. That's going to expose your gear rack, which is this gear that runs up and down right here, the needle driver, which is the bar at the top right here, and the bobbin driver, or shuttle driver, I believe is what they call it, down here at the bottom. So all of those work in conjunction with each other. The handle is connected directly to the needle bar, and then also connected to that is this gear set right here that the teeth intertwine with the bar right here, and it makes everything go up and down, and that keeps this bar and this bar in sync. And this is where you adjust the timing of the machine, whether you're talking about the timing of the needle driver or you're talking about the timing of the shuttle driver down here, and also the timing on the take-up arm. So all of that works together, and we're going to break it down one piece at a time. So we're going to start right here with this gear and the gear rack and talk about how they work together. So let me move the camera and give you a view of it. All right, first thing to inspect when you're trying to set the timing on your machine is to make sure that there is no play between the handle, this gear, and the needle bar. Mine had a lot of play in it. I don't know if it was slop that developed over the years of the back and forth and it had wallowed out the hole where this gear attaches or what, but I could move this quite a bit and it would turn this gear and move the gear rack, but this bar would not move until it reached a certain limit, and then it would start to move, and that was really goobering up my timing. So you want to make sure there's no play in there. Just by tightening everything up really well, I took that out. But it's just something to think about. Now, the gear rack, when you are at the very top of your extension, should be contacting the bottom of this rubber washer. All right, so when I come up, that rubber washer is what's actually stopping the forward motion of the handle. Now, in timing with that is this take-up arm, and when the handle is at the full extension here at the top, the take-up arm shouldn't have any slack in it. In other words, I can't push it down without the bar, without the handle moving. All right, so if my handle was, let's say that was full extension right there, and I came over here, now I know I've got a timing issue on this take-up arm. So we'll talk about all of those. But the first thing is make sure that there's no broken teeth and that this, when it's at the top, is up against there. So if all of that checks out, then the next thing we want to do is make sure that these teeth are aligned properly with the gear rack. Now if they're not, I'm going to go over how to change that, but the way you make sure of that is run it all the way down And then if I come up under here, I'm going to move a little light over here so we can see. If I come up under here, you can see on the gear rack, if we count up every full tooth all the way up, I've got a mark between, that's the 12th tooth and the 13th tooth right there. So I marked both of those teeth. So counting upward, that's number 12, that's number 13. And what we want is for the bottom gear, the bottom tooth on this upper gear, to be in between the 12th and the 13th gear when the handle is all the way at the top. So if I run this all the way to the top, you see those mesh up, and there's the top, and you see that's the 12th gear right there, that last one, and so it's lined up properly. And coming back up here at the top, you can see that the gear rack is up against here. So I know now that this needle driver is in time. Okay, the next thing we need to do is make sure that the take-up lever is in time. So mine doesn't have any slack right here, but if yours does, the way to adjust that is right here. This is the take-up arm lever. I'm not real sure what they call it, but if you back off this Allen screw, that frees this up, and it will actually spin forward and back. And so if you lift your handle all the way up with that loosened up, and then push it all the way up so that there is no slack here, and this is up against here, and then tighten this Allen key back up so that everything is tight and at the top, then you're going to have those are in time. That will get the entire top of your machine timed out. All right, some of you are saying right now, but what if my machine is not in between the 12th and the 13th tooth? Well, it's a pretty simple fix there, and what you're going to have to do is come down here and take this Allen key loose, or this Allen screw loose, and just let that little bar fall out of the way. All right, and then pull out on the gear rack as you come down, and we're just going to rotate that gear rack all the way out of there. All right, so it takes a little bit to get that done, but that gear rack will just rotate down and come all the way out of the machine. All right, and there again you can see where I marked it. So if it was out of time, then as you put it back in, you're just going to have to kind of try and line it up so that you get it back in the proper gear synchronization. So putting it back, just run that handle all the way down as far as it'll go, stick it back up in there, make a little adjustment however you need to, and run that bar back up to the top. All right, once you're at the top, then check it. I actually have mine off now. Mine is now on between the 13th and the 14th tooth, so I'm going to have to redo that. But it's just a matter of trial and error right there until you get those teeth meshed up just right. Once you have the teeth meshed back up right, then again check to make sure that everything that we talked about already is still set right. It's probably going to change some stuff on your machine. If you're actually changing the teeth on this gearing, it's going to change the synchronization of all this stuff, so you're going to have to reset that. But that's the first step. Get those gears lined up and then synchronize the lifter arm and that upper bar. Now that we've got the upper part of the machine all in time and everything is tight, then the next thing we're going to have to focus on is timing the shuttle driver. That's the lower part of the machine. And so the gear rack right here runs in between the two, and it drives both of those bars. So this is what we're going to focus on first. This connection between the gear rack right here, the upper and the lower gear rack, is where you fine adjustment on the bobbin or the shuttle driver down here. So really what you want to do before you make any other adjustments is just make sure this is about in the middle. That way if you need to go up or down, once you do the course adjustment down here, then you've got room on both sides of it. So just make sure that's about in the middle. Don't worry about anything down here yet. You can loosen this nut, set it in the middle, tighten it back up. Okay, then the next thing we're going to do is loosen the nut down here at the bottom and just let it swing out of the way. So by doing that, what that lets us do, make sure your handle's all the way at the top of its range, and around on the front right here, you've got your bobbin. And with the handle all the way at the top, what Tippmann tells you is to set this bar right here at about the 12 o'clock position, the tip of that bar at about the 12 o'clock position. You can see mine is a little bit over, a little too far right now, and so we're going to do the rough adjustment first. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to reach back here on the back and I'm going to pull out on the gear driver or the gear bar here. And as I pull out on that, what I'm doing is these teeth right here, I'm disengaging those teeth from this bar, and it allows the bar to turn freely. So if I pull out on that, if I can do it without hitting the camera, then I can turn the bobbin freely without turning anything else in the machine. So I'm going to pull out on that, and I'm going to rotate that bobbin until I get this approximately at the 12 o'clock position. You can see it, it's kind of the dark piece back there, and the tip of it needs to be approximately a 12 o'clock position. Once I'm there, then I'm just going to push in on this bar so that I don't lose the timing. Again, make sure my handle is all the way at the top, and I'm going to tighten this back up. Now here's the distinction where I want to get into really fine-tuning your machine. So if you're going by most of what's out there on the internet, you would look at this probably and say, yeah, that's approximately the 12 o'clock position. Timing should be good. But it's very critical where this bobbin is in relation to the needle travel as it travels up and down. And the reason for that is, if you can see on this needle, that little scarf, that little cutout right there, that faces towards the back of the machine, and as the bobbin comes around, that hook on the bobbin hooks right through that little cutout. And so you've only got that much space for that hook to go through. And so let me take this thing apart and show you what I'm talking about. All right, I pulled the shuttle out of the machine because I wanted you to see what I'm talking about. So as your machine cycles, that scarf on the needle is facing towards the machine, and this hook is turning. So the needle comes down through your material, and then as it's coming back up, the shuttle is turning, and it's hooking right through the back of that scarf, which is hooking the thread and pulling it around and tying your knot. So if I can turn it around this way so you can see it, this is upside down of course, but it's coming around and it's hooking right through that scarf on the needle. And so if your timing is off a little bit, it'll either hit the needle here and kind of give you a little bit of binding up, or it'll hit it too late and maybe it'll split the thread if it hits too late and hits right where it's coming out of the eye of the needle. Or it just won't catch it at all. It'll catch down here and it won't catch it at all. And even though this looks like a lot on camera, I'm sorry, I'm off on the side. Even though it looks like a lot on the camera here, the difference is very little of handle movement that makes in there. So what we're trying to do is get that to hit that scarf. Really, we want it to hit, so if the needle is coming down, we want it to hit right about here. If that scarf starts right there, we want it to hit right as it's starting so that it has an opportunity to catch that thread as it pulls by. So this is just set the way that Tippmann says to set it, and I want to cycle it with the needle and kind of show you how that may not be exactly right. So here comes the needle down into where your shuttle driver is, and look, as it hits, right now it's hitting the bottom of the bobbin holder, the tip of the needle is. So that's definitely a problem on the downstroke right there. You can see it bind up. That has a potential to break the needle. And I guarantee you it's not hooking the scarf properly as it comes through. And so then coming back up, the tip of that that catches the thread is probably about right here before it ever starts coming back up. So I'm going to see if I can video that a little bit. But what I've found is that at the full upright position on my machine, at least, this piece needs to be back just a little bit. And I'm going to show you how to set that so that it catches in the right place. All right, so I've laid the machine on its back, and I've got the handle at the full downward stroke. So this is the bottom of the handle stroke. You can see the needle here, and I marked on the needle, this red on the needle is where that scarf is on the needle. Of course, the scarf is facing the back of the machine, or towards the inside of the machine, so you can't really see it. But there's the scarf right there marked in red, and there's the tip of that shuttle. So the tip of that shuttle really needs to enter the scarf somewhere between the top and the middle. Not right at the top, because the thread's going to be pretty tight right there, but more upper 2/3 of it, maybe. Somewhere right in here is where that tip needs to enter the needle. So if I cycle the handle right now, you can see that the tip is actually above just a little bit where the scarf is. And even if it's not above it, it's right at the very top of it. So what I want to do on my timing is move this down so that it's more engaging right in here. All right, so let's talk about how to do that. Okay, so from looking at it, we know that the shuttle driver right here is too far in that direction. The tip, in other words, is too far in that direction because it was engaging with the scarf on the needle too early. So we need to move it back that way. So the way to do that is you come back up here at the top at that fine adjustment that I talked about, and you loosen that up. And I've already got this one loose. And once it's loose and those two are separate, hold your handle at the full upright position, and then you can just come in here and you can move this where you need it to get that adjustment where you want it. So I'm going to set this one somewhere about right there, which we were at 12 o'clock, now we're just a little bit farther back, and then tighten that back up. All right, I've got it tightened back up, and so now if I do that same little test I did, here comes the needle down, pulling the handle downward, you'll notice that the tip of the needle is not hitting the bobbin the bobbin holder anymore, and it's not hitting that screw that it was. You can actually see where it hit the screw right there, but it's not hitting any of that, and it's coming all the way down and not making contact with the bobbin housing anywhere. So we solved that problem. Now we just need to look and make sure that it's entering into the needle exactly where we want it to. All right, I actually ran out of adjustment and I had to go back and redo the course adjustment before I could get this where I wanted it. But now, if you see, so the red, this is where the scarf starts, right there. There is the end of that shuttle, right there, that pointy end. And as I cycle the handle upward, you can see that it's actually entering below where the top of that scarf starts. So there it is there. It's hard to see. See if I can get it up under there. So it's probably entering about the top 2/3 where it's going past the needle. And that's exactly what I want. So let me set this up and show you where I ended up. All right, here I am back at the front of the machine, and you can see this is the handle is at the full upright position, and there is the tip of that shuttle driver right there. So pretty good distance from the 12 o'clock position for me, okay? And you can play with that fine adjustment up and down, just a little bit forward and back to get that shuttle driver entering the needle exactly where you need to. That's the key component of hooking that thread as it comes around. Once you do all that, your machine should be in time. So now let's talk about some common problems and show you a little bit more about how this machine works. I pulled off the front cover of the machine right here so that you can see some of the inner workings of how the needle bar and all of those things work, because I think understanding how your machine works helps you identify when you're having problems. So a couple problems I was having with this one was the needle, when it would advance the material, wasn't advancing it far enough, I thought, because my stitch length, I couldn't get it where I needed it. Now your adjustment wheel right here is limited by this bar, and the reason it's limited is that as your handle cycles, so it's got this little roller right here that is connected internally with your stitch length adjuster. So that roller, as the needle goes down, rolls along the edge of the needle bar right here, and where this is stepped up actually starts to force that needle backwards, which is what advances your material. So as I come down, it begins to force it backwards, and that's the full length of adjustment right there, backwards. So that'll give you the longest stitch length, and you notice it's contacting the case here and contacting the wheel there. So that's as far as it can be. What I found with mine was that this little roller, let's see if I can get it where you can see it. I replaced that little roller because it was out of round. It had a flat spot on it. There you can see it right there, that little flat spot. And so even though that's not much, that was enough that it wasn't pushing the needle all the way over. So that's one of the parts I replaced. It's just a little plastic roller, and it's probably made to wear so that it doesn't wear the metal. And that hopefully will have fixed that problem. All right, another issue with this is the pressure foot. So as you come down with your needle stroke, this pressure foot is designed to lift up, not completely off your material, but it lifts up enough that it relieves pressure on the material so the material can slide through. And that's accomplished by this little cam right here, and there's a piece that you'll see as I cycle it begins to engage with these little teeth. So as I begin to cycle it, this piece starts to move, and it catches that pressure foot bar, and it lifts it up just enough to give you a little bit of clearance in your material. Now mine wasn't lifting up, and again there's another one of these little rollers up here that'll come off, and that roller was worn. Again, I'll try and show you. So that roller was worn down so that the sides of it had flat spots on it. And that bit of wear right there was enough that it was making this not work right. So I replaced that roller. So other than that, really what you're looking at in here is just the cycling of everything. You got the pressure foot and you got the needle. There's a lot going on right here, but that's really the only two moving or parts that really matter when they move, so that your needle goes down, advances your material as the needle goes in. You hear this reset as it switches past, which lets the pressure foot come back down. And then as you come up, there's a little pin right here that engages with that front cover that pushes your needle back the other direction and gets you reset for your next stroke. So as you inspect all this stuff, if you're looking to buy a new one or whatever, just kind of look in here and look for wear, excessive wear or any of that sort of thing. And those two parts in particular may need to be replaced if your machine's seen a lot of use. So there you go, guys. That will have your machine timed right. Now there's a lot of other issues that go into making a good stitch on these machines, such as thread and needle selection and tension on your thread going into the machine, and also on your bobbin. There's not enough time to cover that in this video, so I'm going to be covering it in another video. But if you're having problems, eliminate the timing issue first and then address all those other issues, because changing all that other stuff is not going to make any difference if your timing is off on your machine. If this video has been helpful for you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.